Okay, so get this, right? Billie Eilish, um, the queen of like all that moody pop music. Well, she she actually got her start writing songs because she was inspired by, get this, a zombie apocalypse.
Wow.
It's like talk about finding inspiration in the most random places, right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into Billie's world, and we're going way past the hits and the awards and all that. Like we really want to try to understand her journey.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, right? I mean, we've got all these excerpts from this biography, and they really paint like a really personal picture of her life.
Mm.
Like from when she first got those creative sparks to like navigating superstardom and everything in between.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool is we know she wrote her first song when she was only 11 years old,
Wow, 11.
and it was inspired by The Walking Dead.
Oh, wow.
So I'm curious, like, what does that tell us about her creative process? What kind of themes and ideas were like really resonating with her at such a young age?
Well, what's really interesting here is that the excerpts kind of suggest that she was drawn to like all the really intense emotion in the show.
Okay.
All the that raw human drama, but like set against this backdrop of like survival.
Right, right.
And it seemed like even way back then, she was already looking for stories that explored, complicated feelings, and it feels like that's become like a signature thing in her music.
Yeah, it's like she was like already kind of drawn to that darker side of things, right?
Yeah.
But she didn't just write songs,
Yeah.
right? She was also working on her voice from a young age.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Joining the Los Angeles Children's Chorus when she was 8, I mean, that had to be such an important experience for her.
Totally.
Just think that the all the discipline it takes
Mm.
and getting to hear all those different types of music and of course the vocal training you get from being part of a group like that.
For sure, for sure. It's amazing to think about how all those experiences, even the ones that don't seem related, like watching, The Walking Dead, all played a part in making her the artist she is today.
Yeah.
But, things weren't always easy for her.
No, not at all.
When she was 13, she had a pretty big setback,
Right.
a growth plate injury
Mm-hmm.
that meant she had to give up dancing, which was something she was really, really passionate about.
Yeah.
Like a major turning point in her life because it makes her focus all her energy on music.
It's true.
It makes you think, like, how would you handle such a huge change at that age?
I don't know. It's interesting because the excerpts really highlight how resilient she was, even though she was, disappointed.
Yeah.
It's like she took all that energy, all that passion, and poured it into writing songs and producing music.
Yeah.
And that's where working with her brother Phineas really starts to, become a bigger thing.
Yeah, and then comes Ocean Eyes. Like the song that changed everything.
Right.
It's almost like one of those classic stories, like, overnight success. A song that gets uploaded online and just blows up, like seemingly out of nowhere.
It is, and it's fascinating to look back at the whole context,
Mm-hmm.
She was mostly homeschooled, and her life was, it was pretty sheltered,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, bam, she's in the global spotlight.
Yeah.
It's a complete 180.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, how did she even process that change?
Yeah.
Going from, like, anonymity to this, like, massive wave of attention and fame. Like, what did that do to her sense of self?
Yeah.
And her relationships even?
Well, the excerpt suggests that she felt really overwhelmed. She talks about feeling isolated, feeling pressured, like she was always being watched.
And then just a couple of years later, at 18, she achieved something that no one else has done at that age.
It's true.
Winning 5 Grammys.
Wow.
Including Album of the Year. I mean, that's an amazing achievement, but it must have made all those pressures even worse.
It's hard to even imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have that level of success when you're so young, when you're still trying to figure out who you are and how to like navigate the world.
Right.
It's got to be both exhilarating and incredibly challenging at the same time.
It's like she's living 2 lives.
Yeah.
The global superstar and just a young woman trying to like find her place in the world.
Yeah.
And those 2 worlds seem to clash in some pretty intense ways.
Yeah. The biographical excerpts paint this picture of someone who's really struggling with the weight of all those expectations,
Mm-hmm.
trying to make sense of who she is in public versus who she is in private.
And that struggle, shows up in some pretty drastic ways.
Yeah.
She even says that she didn't leave her house for 5 years.
Wow.
Like she went into like self-imposed isolation.
I mean, think about it. The constant scrutiny, never having any privacy, just the sheer intensity of being in the spotlight all the time.
Yeah.
It makes sense that she felt like she needed to, retreat and protect herself.
It really makes you think about this idea that fame, even though we often see it as this glamorous thing, comes with a real cost.
Yeah.
It's not all just red carpets and award shows, right?
Right.
There's a real person behind that persona.
Yeah.
And that person needs space and time to process and breathe.
Absolutely. And it's not just about being physically isolated. She also talks about how she lost friends during that time and how hard it was to keep up relationships with everything going on around her.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what are the hidden downsides of fame that we don't always see?
Right.
All the sacrifices, the compromises, the impact it has on your mental and emotional well-being.
It's a good reminder that success, especially on a scale like hers, often comes with some pretty complicated trade-offs. And what's really interesting is that while she was dealing with all that pressure and those challenges, Billie was also like going through something else that was really complex too.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Her own, sense of identity and how that was changing.
Right. And this is where she starts to really like challenge all those norms and expectations that people have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, her statement about feeling powerful in her masculinity,
Right.
that really got people talking.
Yeah, it was a pretty bold statement to make, especially considering, the expectations that are often put on young female artists.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find so fascinating is that she's not like just rejecting femininity altogether.
Right.
It's more like she's embracing this this more fluid way of understanding, gender and how it's expressed.
And that really connects with a lot of people, especially those who feel trapped by those, traditional labels.
Yeah.
It's about like owning every part of yourself, even the parts that don't fit neatly into those societal boxes that
Yeah.
people try to put us in.
Exactly. It's about rejecting this idea that there's only one way to be a woman, only one way to be masculine, only one way to express who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really powerful message, especially for her young fans who are still, trying to figure themselves out.
It's like she's giving them permission to just be their true selves.
Right.
But even with all the success and having this platform and sharing this message of, empowerment, she's still human.
Of course.
Right. She's still got her own vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. I mean, the excerpts actually talk about her struggles with imposter syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Which is something a lot of high achievers experience.
Really?
Yeah. It's that feeling, like you're not good enough. Or that you're a fraud.
Right.
Even when you've done these incredible things.
It's like the more you accomplish, the louder those voices of self-doubt get, right?
It can feel that way, yeah.
And that's so relatable, even for those of us who aren't, Grammy-winning superstars.
I know, right. And I think that's part of why her vulnerability is so powerful.
Okay.
By being open about, imposter syndrome and her anxieties and her insecurities, she helps other people feel like it's okay to feel that way too.
It makes you realize that even those people who we see as having it all figured out, the ones we put on a pedestal, they're fighting their own battles too.
Yeah.
And there's something kind of comforting about that,
Mm-hmm.
that shared human experience.
Totally. It's like she's saying, hey, it's okay if you don't have it all together. It's okay to feel insecure. It's okay to doubt yourself. You're
Yeah.
not alone in feeling this way.
And that's amplified even more by, her willingness to open about her mental health challenges.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's something that's still so stigmatized, especially for young people.
It is.
But she's breaking down those barriers, showing that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk about it, and that you don't have to suffer in silence.
Exactly. And that's where her music comes in, It
Right.
becomes this lifeline, this space where she can express all these raw emotions, all these vulnerabilities, and connect with people who are going through similar things.
The biographical excerpts really highlight how much her songs have provided comfort and solace to so many people.
It's true.
And it's like they see themselves reflected in her lyrics,
Yeah.
in her melodies, in her honesty.
It's the power of shared experience.
Right.
It's finding connection through art.
Right.
And her music validates their feelings. It lets them know they're not alone,
Yeah.
that it's okay to feel lost and confused, heartbroken, anxious.
And it's not just the words,
Sure.
right? There's something about her music, like the sonic world she creates,
Right.
that really taps into those deep emotions.
Oh, for sure. People often describe her music as atmospheric,
Mhm.
haunting, even a bit unsettling sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sound really complements the emotional depth of her lyrics.
It's like she's creating this world where it's okay to embrace, like, the darkness and the sadness,
Yeah.
all the complexities of human emotion.
Right.
And that's incredibly liberating for a lot of people.
It really is. It's like she's rejecting this whole idea that pop music has to always be upbeat and happy.
Mm-hmm.
She's proving that you can be successful, you can be a global phenomenon, and still explore those darker, more introspective parts of what it means to be human.
And that's where her artistry really shines, right?
It is.
She's not afraid to take risks
No.
or to push boundaries and challenge those expectations.
And she does it on her own terms, too.
Yeah.
She's not conforming to anyone's ideas about what a pop star should be. She's creating her own path, and that's incredibly inspiring.
And it goes beyond just the music, too.
It does.
Right? She's using her platform to speak out on issues she cares about, to advocate for change, and to really use her voice for good.
Yeah, she's spoken out about climate change, mental health awareness, body positivity, social justice issues. She's not shying away from those tough conversations.
It's clear that she understands the power and responsibility that come with her level of fame.
Yeah.
And she's not afraid to use it to amplify important messages, to get people talking, and to inspire them to take action.
And that's what makes her such a force to be reckoned with, She's not just a musician. She's a cultural icon.
Right.
A role model. A voice for a whole generation that's demanding change and authenticity and demanding to be heard.
And speaking of how she's evolved, her latest album, Hit Me Hard and Soft, it seems like that marks another step forward in her artistic journey. What did you notice about that album in particular?
Well, musically, it feels really different from her earlier work.
Okay.
It's more experimental, more layered, more intricate. And you can hear how she's incorporating different genres and playing with tempo and rhythm in these really interesting ways.
The biographical excerpts mention that she uses instruments like the mellotron.
Oh, yeah.
And it adds this, haunting, almost nostalgic quality to some of the tracks.
It does.
It's like she's creating these sonic textures that just make the emotional depth of the music even richer.
Exactly. And lyrically, there's a sense of maturity there, of introspection.
Yeah.
She's exploring themes of growth, self-discovery, the complexities of relationships, the challenges of dealing with fame and public scrutiny.
It's like she's inviting us into her world, sharing her journey of self-discovery, her vulnerabilities, her successes, her struggles.
Yeah.
And that's what makes her music so powerful and resonant.
Yeah. It is. It reminds us that even those who seem to have it all figured out are still on a journey. They're still learning, still growing. And that's something we can all relate to no matter where we are in life.
It really strikes me that Billie Eilish is like a really powerful voice for her generation. She's not afraid to talk about the tough stuff they're going through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's really facing those conversations head on.
Right.
About, mental health, body image, the pressures of social media, even the climate crisis.
Yeah.
These are huge issues that are really weighing on young people's minds.
Totally. And what's so cool is that she doesn't, preach or lecture about it.
No.
She's just sharing her own experiences, her own struggles. And that makes her message so much more relatable and real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. A young woman with all her influence openly talking about dealing with anxiety and depression. It helps remove the stigma around these topics.
Yeah.
And encourages her fans to be more open about their own mental health, too.
It's like she's giving them permission to say, hey, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
It's okay to ask for help. And that's such a powerful message, especially when, the world often tells young people to just suck it up and pretend everything's fine.
Yeah, for sure. And it goes for how she feels about body image, too.
Right.
I mean, she refuses to conform to these, totally unrealistic beauty standards. And she's spoken out against the pressure to look a certain way.
Yeah.
So she's really empowering her fans to accept their own bodies, flaws and all.
It's like such an important message of self-acceptance and body positivity, especially with all those images of airbrushed perfection that young girls are bombarded with all the time.
Totally. But it goes beyond just talking about these things.
Right.
She's taking action, too.
Totally. I mean, she's using her concerts to promote sustainability.
Exactly.
Encouraging her fans to make choices that are good for the environment. And she partners with organizations that are working on climate change initiatives.
Right. And she's vocal about social justice issues, too.
Yes.
Using her platform to amplify the voices of marginalized communities, it's clear she understands the responsibility that comes with her level of fame.
Right.
And she's not afraid to use it to fight for positive change.
It's really inspiring to see someone so young being so proactive and using her influence to make a difference.
It is.
And it really connects with her fans. They see that she's actually doing things, not just talking about them. And I think that empowers them to do the same.
Yeah, it sends a message that you don't have to wait till you're older or more established to stand up for what you believe in.
Right.
You can use your voice no matter how small you might feel.
Yeah.
To fight for change, to make the world a better place.
Exactly, yeah. It's about understanding that we all have a part to play in making society more fair and just.
Yeah.
And that message of empowerment and working together is at the core of what makes Billie Eilish such an important figure.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Billie Eilish's life and work, what stands out the most to you? What's the biggest takeaway?
For me, it's how committed she is to being authentic.
Yeah.
From her music to how she presents herself to the things she fights for. She's always been willing to just be herself, flaws and all. And by doing that, she's created a space where her fans feel seen, heard, and understood.
I totally agree. It's that vulnerability, that honesty that makes her so relatable and inspiring. She's not afraid to show her struggles, to admit that she doesn't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes her message all the more powerful.
It's a message that goes way beyond just music, too, you know? It's about how important it is to embrace who we are, to speak our truth, to use our voices to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we can all take with us wherever our journeys lead us.
Well said. It's been such a fascinating look into Billie Eilish's world, a world that's both deeply personal and has a huge impact on others.
It has.
We hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for her art, her courage, and her commitment to just being real.
And who knows what the future holds for her. She's just getting started. But one thing's for sure, she's going to keep pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo, and inspiring millions along the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.